Have you ever felt like airports are moving faster every year, while your body is quietly asking them to slow down? For travelers over 65, flying today doesn't just feel different. It is different. Check-in counters disappear. Apps replace people. Rules change without warning. And somehow no one ever sits seniors down and explains what they're actually entitled to. Here's the truth: most airlines don't advertise. If you're flying in your later years, the system already gives you more protections, more flexibility, and more rights than the average traveler. The problem isn't age, it's that no one tells you how to use them. In this video, I'm opening a quiet handbook most seniors never see. Inside are 11 airport and airline rules updated for 2026 that can save your knees, your energy, your medications, and in one case, your entire trip. And I'll warn you now, rule number 10 is the one that stops people at the checkpoint even when they've done everything else right. Before you fly again, you'll want to check your wallet twice. If you're over 65, or helping someone who is, this isn't a video to watch after things go wrong. It's the one you watch before you ever leave home. Rule number 1. The check-in trap. Most seniors don't see coming. For most travelers today, a trip doesn't begin at the airport anymore. It begins on a phone. Airlines now assume you'll check in on an app, use a kiosk, maybe even scan your face, then drop your bag and move on. But for many seniors, that's where trouble starts. Real check-in counters still exist, but there are fewer of them, and the lines move slowly. The key thing to remember is this: you are still allowed to get a printed boarding pass. The mistake happens when signage pushes you into express bag drop or app check-in only lanes. Those assume you're already checked in, and no one there can help you. Instead, look for full-service check-in or special assistance. That's where a human can print your pass and fix problems. Because airlines rely so heavily on apps, seniors who need the counter should arrive earlier. If you're not using the app, 3 hours early for domestic flights is a safer buffer. Here's the smarter option: a family member can check you in remotely using the airline app and email your boarding pass so you can print it at home. Walk in with paper, skip the chaos, and start the trip calmer. Rule number 2. Why wheelchair help fails if you ask too late. Many seniors assume wheelchair or mobility help is something you can request when you arrive at the airport. In 2026, that assumption quietly causes missed flights. At major hub airports, places like Atlanta, Denver, LAX, mobility assistance is now expected to be added to your booking at least 48 hours before departure. If that note isn't already in the system, staff may say they'll try to help, but in reality, you're placed behind everyone who planned ahead. That's how seniors end up dragging bags through long terminals, or waiting alone while boarding starts without them. The solution is surprisingly simple, but the wording matters. When you book your ticket or shortly after, call the airline or your travel agent and say this exact sentence: please add continuous mobility assistance from check-in through boarding with no handoffs. Those words don't just request a wheelchair. They tell the system you need end-to-end help, meaning someone stays with you instead of passing you off halfway through the airport. If long walks, standing in lines, or rushing between gates strain your knees, hips, or back, treat mobility assistance as part of the ticket, not a last-minute favor. That one early phone call can save your energy before you even reach the plane. Because once you're moving calmly through the terminal, the next question becomes, how do you board early, even without a wheelchair? That's where rule number 3 comes in. Rule number 3. How seniors can board early without a wheelchair. Many seniors believe early or assisted boarding is only for passengers in wheelchairs. That's not true, and the system already recognizes more than most people realize. If you have arthritis, a replaced knee, or hip balance issues, or simply can't stand in one place for long, Many airlines consider that a mobility limitation even if you walk onto the plane on your own, and under current accessibility practices that can qualify you for assisted or early boarding. The key is using the language airlines understand. When you book your ticket or call the airline later, ask this: can you add a special service request for mobility support and assisted boarding to my reservation? That request creates a hidden note called a special service request or SSR attached to your ticket. At the gate, that note often flags your boarding pass, and you'll be invited to board with the assisted or early group instead of standing in a long line watching half the plane walk past you. This isn't about getting special treatment. It's about protecting your knees, your balance, and your energy before you even reach your seat. And once boarding becomes calmer, another question matters just as much: who gets to stay with you? Because mobility support doesn't always mean traveling alone. That's exactly what rule number 4 is about. Rule number 4: how to stay with your companion instead of being split apart. Airports are chaotic places, and for seniors who need mobility support, being separated from a spouse, child, or travel companion can turn stress into panic. What most people don't realize is when you're receiving mobility or medical assistance, airlines are often expected to keep one companion linked to you. Under U.S. accessibility rules, that companion can usually stay with you through security and boarding. But again, wording matters. At check-in or the gate, don't just say, "We're traveling together." Say this instead: "We're traveling together, and I'm under mobility assistance. Please link our boarding for companion continuity." That phrase tells the system not to split you into different boarding groups. In many cases, your companion is pulled into your earlier boarding group, so staff know you move as a unit. Now here's a lesser-known option. If your helper isn't even flying with you, maybe your daughter is just dropping you off. Many U.S. airports can issue a gate pass, also called a non-passenger escort pass, that allows a family member to go through security with you, walk you to the gate, help you get settled, and stay until boarding begins. You simply ask, "I have mobility issues. Is it possible to issue a gate pass so my family member can escort me to the gate?" It depends on the airport and TSA, but it's common enough that it's always worth asking. And once you've made it through security calmly, rule number 5 tackles one of the most stressful moments for seniors' shoes, medical devices, and TSA screening. Rule number 5: how TSA screening gets easier when you know what to say. For many seniors, TSA screening is the most stressful part of flying. Bending to remove shoes, unpacking medications, worrying about what might set off the scanner. It can feel overwhelming. Here's the good news. TSA already makes more allowances for seniors than most people realize, especially when medical needs are involved. If you travel with items like a CPAP, insulin liquid medication, or medical nutrition, TSA treats these as medical supplies, not regular toiletries. In many cases, they can stay inside your bag. As your bag goes onto the belt, simply say, "There are medically necessary items in this bag." That small sentence often prevents unnecessary rummaging and keeps your health details private. Now about metal implants and pacemakers. New knees, hips, plates, or screws don't mean automatic trouble. TSA provides a medical notification card you can fill out and hand over before screening. For pacemakers especially, you can request a manual pat-down instead of a handheld wand over your chest. And shoes. The rules are shifting. With newer scanners rolling out, many seniors, especially those with balance or mobility issues, are increasingly allowed to keep shoes on. If removing them is painful, politely explain your mobility limitation and ask if another screening method is possible. Once security feels calmer, the next challenge is protecting what matters most to your health. That's where rule number 6 comes in. medications and liquids in 2026. Rule number 6. Medications and liquids. What actually changes in 2026? For many seniors, medications cause more anxiety than the boarding pass itself. In 2026, it helps to think in two simple categories: liquids and pills. In the U.S., medically necessary liquids, like insulin prescription syrups, liquid nutrition, and the ice packs used to keep them cold, are not limited by the 3.4-ounce rule. The key is transparency. At the checkpoint, say, "These are medically necessary liquids. They may be scanned or swabbed, but declaring them upfront prevents problems." Pills are where seniors get caught off guard, especially on international trips. On U.S. and domestic flights, TSA usually allows pills in daily organizers, but many countries overseas don't. Places like Japan, the UAE, and parts of Europe may view unlabeled pills as suspicious. For international travel, keep medications in their original pharmacy bottles clearly labeled with your name and dosage. Quantity matters too. Some countries limit how many months of medication you can bring. Seniors have had pills counted at arrival and excess medication confiscated, even when everything was legal. Before long, trips check the destination's official health or customs rules or ask your pharmacist for help. Once your medications are protected. Rule number 7 covers how to keep temperature-sensitive meds safe without them counting against your carry-on. Rule number 7. How to carry medical cooler bags without losing carry-on space. If you travel with insulin or other temperature-sensitive medication, there's a quiet worry that follows you onto the plane. Is this getting too warm? Under current U.S. airline rules, a small dedicated medical bag is usually treated separately from your normal carry-on. That means it typically does not count against your carry-on limit as long as it clearly holds medical items. The trick is to keep it obvious and honest. Use a small, soft cooler or pouch and add a simple tag that says medical or insulin. On U.S. airlines, this is widely recognized. On international carriers, it's smart to double-check policies in advance. Once on board, don't leave temperature-sensitive medication in an overhead bin. Cabin air can get warm, and bins are often even hotter. Keep your cooler with you. Here's the best moment to ask for help as you board not mid-flight. Walk on holding the labeled bag and say to a flight attendant, "I'm traveling with temperature-sensitive medication. Could you please store it in the crew cooler?" Many crews will help as a courtesy. A clearly labeled pouch makes it easier for them to say yes, and easier to remember to return it before landing. With meds secure, the next issue is your body on the plane itself. That's where rule number 8 comes in, protecting your seat space and joints. Rule number 8. Why the right seat is an accessibility need, not a luxury. A tight middle seat might be uncomfortable at 25. At 65, with bad knees, a replaced hip, or limited mobility, it can leave you sore for days. Here's what many seniors don't know. On many U.S. airlines, an aisle seat or bulkhead seat can qualify as an accessibility. Need not just a preference. If you struggle to stand up, need frequent restroom access, use a cane or walker, or have significant joint pain, you're not asking for an upgrade. You're asking for a seat your body can safely manage. Again, wording matters. Instead of saying, "Can I change seats?" use this language. "I need an accessibility seat for mobility and comfort under DOT policy." That single sentence changes how the request is treated. It frames the issue as accessibility, not convenience. And if the agent hesitates, you can calmly add, "If that's not possible, May I speak with the complaint resolution official? Every U.S. airline is required to have a complaint resolution official CRO trained to handle disability and access issues. You may never see a sign for them, but mentioning the role signals that you understand your rights. This won't put you in business class, but it can be the difference between a painful flight and one where you can stand, stretch, and reach the restroom without turning the cabin into an obstacle course. And once your seat is handled, comfort doesn't stop at the plane. Rule number 9 shows how seniors can escape noisy terminals and recharge between flights. Rule number 9. Finding quiet spaces in loud, overwhelming airports. Busy airport terminals can drain your energy before you ever reach the plane. The noise, bright lights, constant announcements. For many seniors, it's simply too much. Here's something most travelers never hear about. Many large airports now offer quiet rooms, sensory rooms, or accessibility lounges. Different names, same purpose. Softer lighting, less noise, and seating where your body can actually relax. These spaces were originally designed for neurodivergent travelers, but many airports now allow any passenger who needs a calmer environment to use them, including seniors. You won't see big signs pointing the way. You have to ask. At an information desk check-in counter or gate, simply say, "Where is the accessibility lounge or quiet waiting area?" If you're already listed as needing mobility or assisted boarding, you can add, "I'm under assisted boarding." Am I eligible for a quiet or accessibility waiting area? Sometimes the answer will be no, and that's okay. But when the answer is yes, the difference is dramatic. Instead of waiting in a loud gate area on hard chairs, you can sit in a calmer space where your heart rate settles and your energy returns. If you've ever thought, "This airport is just too much today," rule number 9 is for you. And now comes rule number 10, the one that stops trips before they even begin ID. Real ID and biometric checks. Rule number 10. The one ID mistake that can stop your trip cold. Before your next flight, take a moment and really look at the ID in your wallet. Not your name, not the photo, but the small star in the corner. In the US, Real ID is now the standard for domestic flights. If your driver's license doesn't have that star, or it says "Not for federal identification," TSA can no longer accept it as your primary ID. Set the checkpoint. This hits a lot of seniors. Many people over 65 stopped driving years ago or never upgraded their license because it didn't seem urgent. But at the airport, that missing star can stop your trip before it ever begins. If that's your situation, you'll need a Real ID compliant state ID or a valid passport. And here's the second layer most people miss. Airports and airlines are increasingly using biometric checks, face scans at kiosks, boarding gates, and passport control. The system compares your face today to a photo taken years ago. If your passport photo is old and you've lost weight, had surgery, or simply aged, the software can hesitate. The fix is simple but powerful. Carry a second form of ID with a more recent photo. That allows a human officer to step in and clear you manually. So when this video ends, do this one thing: open your wallet. Check for the star. Check your passport expiration date. If you're unsure, rule number 10 just saved you a lot of stress. And once your documents are solid, we can finally talk about money. That's where rule number 11 comes in. Senior fares, hidden fees, and what those discounts really mean. Rule number 11. The truth about senior fares and hidden fees. That little senior option you sometimes see when booking a flight looks promising. But in reality, it's far more limited than most people expect. For many major airlines, senior benefits are built into specific fares, not into waving away every extra fee. Being over 65 doesn't automatically eliminate phone booking fees, agent assistance fees, or change fees. Take Air France as a clear example. They offer a senior pass for an annual fee. On paper, it sounds great, better change and cancellation conditions. But those benefits only apply if you buy qualifying fares after purchasing the pass. Even then, fees are usually reduced, not erased. In the U.S., airlines like United Airlines, Delta Airlines, and American Airlines sometimes offer senior fares on select routes. These usually mean a different ticket price or slightly different rules, not a free pass from service fees. Here's the smarter approach. When speaking to an agent, don't ask, "Is there a senior discount?" Ask instead, "Which fare gives me the most flexibility if my plans change?" For many seniors, the real value isn't a small discount. It's choosing a fare that protects you if health, energy, or family situations shift. Airports aren't slowing down. More apps, more scanners, more fine print. But with the right preparation, your age becomes an advantage. You get the time, the help, the seat, and the calm, and still arrive with energy to enjoy the trip. If this made flying after 65 feel easier, share it with someone you care about. And in the comments, tell me what airport rule or surprise caught you off guard in the past. Pack your meds. Check your ID. Give yourself more time than the app suggests. I'll see you on the next flight.